Awesome. Really excited to be here on Growth Mindset of a Champion podcast today on YouTube. Really blessed to have Chase Wasson on. Chase and I go back to our AstraZeneca days together, but Chase has had an incredible career in sports, playing football down in Texas, and also really molding himself in the pharmaceutical industry. He's currently the vice president of Caris Life Sciences, and he's been in the farm industry for almost going on 18 years now. And he's touched many lives and made a huge difference out there every day in the lives of patients and those in his community and everyone that he's touched through his win the day attitude. And I just want to get Chase on to kind of share some background. A lot of you out there right now are looking to get a little bit better every day, take on challenges, and overcome that comfort zone that we're all in right now to try to get a little better every day. Chase, welcome to the podcast.
Ty, man, it's great to be here. I can tell you, it's an honor to be on the show. I think your audience is blessed by the content you create. I know for me personally, it's been great to watch you flourish in your career, and just privileged to be here.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate. I've always been from a distance and close up. I've always watched your. Every time you walk into a room, you always or you're listening. You're always trying to bring value, share your knowledge, and lift those around you. So I appreciate you doing that for us today on the podcast. Looking back at your background, let's start. What shaped you as a youngster growing up? Kind of give us a little quick synopsis on what lifted you and what gets you motivated to get up and win the day.
Well, we'll have to go way back. Ty, I just touched 40 in July, so don't let the gray hair fool you. But I think it really all started in the way, I was born and raised. My parents are a tremendous pillar of kind of the way I was brought up. My dad was a high school coach, so I can tell you that for anyone that's been around, high school coaches, there's not a lot of comfortability in laying roots down. So I moved, about every 2 to 3 years as his career, progressed, which was really a blessing in disguise. Because what that allowed me to do was be around a lot of different, cities, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different, scenarios where even from a school perspective, you're transitioning in the middle of the year, having to meet new people. So I think a lot of that past experience really helped to mold and shape the way not only I approach life, but also approach how to deal with, different individuals who may not always walk, talk, think, act like the way you do. So obviously my parents were a huge foundation. Another individual that really helped shape the way I think was my grandpa. He was a cotton farmer from Kearns, Texas. So, a lot of times I get teased that I'm always in the Xenia, the Tom Ford, the blue industry, the high-end suits, which that is a passion. But, I was raised in small town USA, raised in hard work, raised in the cotton fields. And, my grandpa gave me great advice growing up. He said, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. And that's something, not only from an athletic standpoint, when you're playing folks that are bigger, stronger, faster, but even in the business realm, there's a lot of folks that have much more probably influential degrees than you and I have. I don't have a PhD, maybe in Prada or Hermes or Dior, but not in the context of spending a lot of time of really investing in the academic side. But I just thought that was great advice, Ty, on how to approach life. And each and every one of us are really molded in the same way, and just treating people the right way. And obviously I think that's been a great foundation that has allowed me to have success in the corporate arena.
Well, it's so ironic you said that because I have a grandfather that was my influencer. He was a tenant farmer. He managed a farm. He didn't own the farm, but he was running it 24/7, taking care of everything, the equipment, the livestock, everything. So it just taught me get up early, work all day, and then when the sun goes down, get some rest and get back up and start again. So
That's
that
right.
mindset is and that is physicality of that work is set me up for a blessed life just because I understand what it takes, from an energy and a commitment and a focus standpoint to be thankful for the opportunity and to get it done. And I can sense that with you, and I've witnessed it with you. So I know what you're telling me is real. That's why I'm so excited to have you on today. When you look at uh, your family, and we all become parents when we do, if we're blessed enough to do that. How has that shaped you? Looking at your family, looking at your community, in regards to your travel. You moved around, but you've always had that, probably that family nucleus there somewhere, right? I heard that with your grandfather, but right now you're at another stage of your life. You turned 40, you got children. I know how important they are to you. Getting this podcast set up, we always flexed around that because that's a priority for you.
Well, I think it's a great point, and I know a lot of your audience, Ty, is made up of a lot of great sales professionals. Let me tell you, the best sell I've ever made in my life is landing my wife. So very blessed to have really outkicked my coverage there. She's really the anchor of our family. As you know, in our world, there's a lot of nights where we're away from family, with dinners, with conferences, with just the everyday grind of winning in the field of healthcare, that what we do. But yeah, very blessed to have a beautiful wife. We've been married 10 years. I can tell you I've got two boys, Cal, who's 9, Cash, who's 6. And probably the joy of my life here is my 1-year-old Cora, who's probably, gonna keep me working for the next 40 to 50 plus years if she spins like her mama does. But no, I think that those, you always have to have a why. And I think that's
Right.
important for anyone. You have to really define what is your why. For me, my family is my why. We talked about early, and you touched on a phrase that's really pivotal and kind of the foundation of what, my family and myself is built on, and that's win the day. And I'm very blessed that I'm also have a spouse and kids that choose to win the day, that motivate me both intrinsically, to perform extrinsically for them. And I think, our platform of being in healthcare and in impacting people, they are able to see that. They're able to, meet the clinicians that ultimately become my friends and kind of see what their impact is day to day. But absolutely, I think, family is the foundation for me, and that's been my greatest sell to this day is landing Shay, and obviously she being the mother of our two boys, beautiful daughter. And I can't be remiss if I leave out the golden doodle Pearl, who keeps us all on our toes.
Well, that's awesome. Now, building that foundation, growing up with a cotton farming grandfather, having meeting your wife, and using your incredible sales skills to land her, having 3 beautiful children. And along that journey, you've been staying busy working in the pharma industry. I know you've got 18 years in, you're just turning 40. My math's not real good, but you started pretty young, right? In that industry. So if my math's right, that's about 22, 23, almost right out of college. Would that be correct?
That's spot on, Ty. You're a lot smarter than you look. So yeah, that's good. That's good Kentucky math. But no, I was very blessed, Ty, coming out. And I think this is important for your audience. Network is your net worth.
Yep.
And I think no matter your age, and I tell this to my boys, you're constantly representing a brand. And growing up, your brand becomes yourself. I think another great life lesson my dad and grandpa used to tell me is, folks always see the back of your jersey with your name on it. And that name needs to, you know, hold credibility when you're not in the room to represent yourself. And so what I mean by that is I was very fortunate to kind of, build a name for myself through my playing career that ultimately put me in contact with a lot of, variety of successful individuals. And I actually met a guy, post playing career who I'd been engaged with, that gave me an opportunity 18 years ago, Ty. There used to be kind of round robin type interviews in the pharmaceutical sales industry. And I was
Right.
fortunate enough to land, with AstraZeneca as my first, pharmaceutical sales role. Had tremendous leadership there. Heidi Tester actually hired me, still to this day, probably one of the best leaders I've ever been around. She really, taught me the importance of how to show up, not necessarily what to say, but how to articulate a message, how to make sure that when you're in front of a customer, what you're saying, number one, holds credibility, but there's a way to build trust. and also represent, your products at the time with passion. Obviously you've got to be, clinically dialed in. But no, I was very fortunate to kind of get my foot in the door early and then surround myself with great mentors. Obviously, you've got to have great products, with which AstraZeneca had at the time. But that was really my foray into the sales realm was AstraZeneca. I was spoiled because I was able to launch, tremendous drugs,
Yeah,
Crestor,
those are
even
blockbuster products
Atacane.
we right
That's
out of the
right.
gate, man.
So
You
yeah,
bring back memories for me. I got in at 24 and a half years ago, and Phil Posa hired me. I went on my one interview, and I was 40 at the time, so I was your age when I got in. And that believe it or not, 40, it was a little older to get into the industry back in those days. Back in 2000. And I just happened to be in the right place, right time. I put in a lot of hard work in another business,
yeah,
and went to night school and got 3 degrees and finally got my chance to get my opportunity. And I had someone also put a word in for me that was in the pharma industry. So I couldn't agree with you more. Networking is so critical to get the opportunity. And then you have to come prepared when you do get the opportunity. And it's how you show up. It's how you prepare. I mean, when they ask you should we hire you? Well, why would you not want to give me this opportunity? Because this is what I will deliver for you, A, B, C, D, right? So it's
100%.
you want to leave them feeling like they need you because you're going to be able to do more for them. And then you're going to get a trial run. Most of the time when you come into a new business or a business, it's all going to be about your performance on a quarterly basis. And you either deliver or you don't deliver. And, you and I go way back, where delivering was real. It's always important. It still is. But in the
Sure.
old days, as you and I know, you wanted to deliver on that quarterly basis and you really didn't want to be in the bottom 10%. I mean, that's the way it worked. Um, and, now at the end of the day, looking at you and I being able to get into this industry and have some success and be able to be here today to kind of help others along their journey. When you hit two key points, networking and branding, right? That comes even before you get into the industry, right? The networking piece, the branding piece, what they can learn from this podcast to take it forward, to help them grow and develop, right? What are your thoughts
Sure.
on that? I know you've kind of nailed it already, but
Well, I think, it's spot on. Obviously, that from the networking side, I think, surrounding yourself not only with like-minded individuals, but also folks that might think a little differently, might have a different path, might have, mirrored success in other ways. But I think anytime you're trying to channel or emulate success, just look at what success has done before you. So I know for me personally, I've tried to emulate others that have gone to where I want to be. And that's how I've tried to develop, my network is connecting with like-minded individuals like that. From the branding side, Ty, and I've really started to over-index on this
mhm.
really, really during COVID, but now post-COVID. And we talked about something early on, or you touched on it, is, once you get in your foot in the door, you've still got to find a way to separate through success.
Yep.
And so I think one thing that's really important for your audience to really hone in on is what are you doing daily to separate yourself from the competition? And I think you can do that in a personal standpoint, but also in a professional standpoint. I think forums like LinkedIn have given people a tremendous voice to really put themselves out there, allow individuals that may not know who is Ty Sparks. I can click on your profile and get a very good understanding of what you're about, academically, where you trained, professionally, what you've delivered. So I think candidates really need to take the idea that, the resume at one point really was a way to represent yourself. I personally think resumes are outdated.
Yeah,
If
it's
I
a
want
digital
to get,
space these days. You
it's
could
a
pull up a
digital
profile of
space.
someone in 30
Yep,
seconds. And
100%.
and I think having that profile set up appropriately, and I think you could probably give us some feedback on that as well. With AI right now, you can take everything you've got and pretty much get a profile written in probably a fifth of what you had in there, and it could be cleaner and more concise about what you've been able to accomplish and kind of who you are. What are your thoughts around that?
No, you're spot on. I think, from the branding standpoint you and I are talking about, absolutely. You want to represent yourself credible, not in all those forums, but also for those that are already in the industry. And I talk through this all the time, even with our own commercial org, and when I'm speaking to folks, our customer base is now using social forums to really brand themselves, specifically in the healthcare realm. Any innovative provider, a lot of the fellows that are coming up in all specialties are using forums like Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. I've got some that are massive influencers across TikTok, believe it or not.
Mhm.
But I think the more you continue to use those forums to not only professionally brand, but also to connect with, so people can really let their guard down a little bit to
Mhm.
see who exactly is Ty, who is Chase. And it's really a much more, I think, comfortable environment to reach out to folks, to connect with folks, even to upskill yourself clinically. I know for me personally, in the industry I'm in, oncology, things are changing day to day. New therapeutics evolve, new biomarkers that we're going after evolve day to day. So really following experts in the field to understand, how do they think? How do they use this information? What is relevant? You don't have to go to a book. You don't have to really, subscribe to the New England Journal of Medicine to pull this information out. You can follow certain individuals just to stay up to
Just stay on
par,
top of
keep
the
yourself dialed in.
ever changing outcomes and trials and things of that nature. We're constantly, I know it used to be Twitter, now it's X, is a big
Sure.
one that you can follow people on. As to your point, LinkedIn I remember when it started, I got involved in it early and, I've gained a few followers on there. I think it got like 25,000 or something. It explodes over time. But the
Yeah.
cool part of that is it's more about me following people and trying to learn from them to gain some insights or some advantages in what's going on in the marketplaces for many things, not just the pharma industry, but to learn about investing, to learn about real estate, to learn about my community. I've started I do a platform for our local community, and I interview different people from my hometown just to kind
Yeah.
of keep us on the map.
Yeah.
I'm starting a YouTube channel on my community to kind of get us out there, and
Yeah.
work with everyone in the community. I just enjoy that part of it. And it is a branding thing, but it's also branding others,
Sure.
giving back to other people. And I think that's, so important that it becomes part of kind of who we are, or you are and I am. And everyone's different, but you're right. Things have changed so much with technology and it's so cool and exciting. So, hey man, when you hear the word growth mindset, what comes to mind for you?
I think adaptability comes to mind, really. I think, for any of us that have been, whether it's sports, whether it's life, adversity is going to hit, right? And I think one thing that always landed on me in the locker room, I'll never forget, we had a sign, adversity, adversity doesn't build character, it reveals character. So let me say that again. Adversity doesn't build
Right.
character, it reveals character. And to me, when you think about growth mindset, understanding that through the journey, it's not a matter of if, it's when you're going to face trials, tribulations, adverse events, etc. It's having the ability to, adapt, think differently, and taking those negatives really into a positive, mindset ultimately to just, try to craft and make do of whatever situation you might be going through.
That is awesome. Chase, I got to let my big boy out. He's under, he's under my
Uh-oh.
feet. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead. I know they make the dogs a little big in Kentucky, so I'm sure that's a big boy.
He's always so good, but today he's impatient. So that's the way it goes.
No, it's all good.
I got a big German Shepherd, Samson. He's my boy. He's
Very
something.
nice.
Hey man, so I love your insight around growth mindset. You run into those people that you have to work with every day that might have a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
Not everybody, and even we can fall into that, pit. I don't like to say that I'm always running 110%. I'd like to think I am, but my wife will let me know sometime. Hey, you all right? What's going on with you today? I'm like, okay, babe, I'm good, I'm good. But sometimes we do fall into, carrying that rock up that hill, right? Every day I look at it this way: we got a boulder. We're all carrying it on our life journey, and there's certain, you know, ways we can carry the boulder, right? If we don't keep our faith and our focus we can drop the boulder and it can roll over us and take us down the hill, right? So when I'm thinking of fixed mindset, what are you thinking? I mean, how do you see that?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, right?
Yeah.
And I think for guys like us that have been around individuals that we may not think like, but we've had the mindset to really, take a step back and accept a differing opinion, maybe try something new that we may not or even believe in. It sometimes does give you a lens into a different way of looking at things, a different way of approaching things. So, we've all been around leaders, I think, that throughout our careers that, may approach things a little bit different or ways that you and I probably wouldn't go through. But I think through those learnings, you actually sometimes can develop different perspectives. And sometimes, I know for me personally, dealing with those type of circumstances actually in the end makes you a better influencer of people because you say, okay, this didn't exactly land well with me on the approach that this individual took, rather than whether it's sour grapes, whether it's,
Right.
kind of combative language, it's learning, it's listening. And that is one thing, Ty, I can share with you, not only through playing, but also in the professional career, is really learning to adapt, and be patient and kind of take whether it's feedback or differencing of opinions that you might
You're making
hear,
a great point.
you know.
What I'm hearing, and I catch myself in this because I grow so much from those around me that don't run on the same track all the time, right? Because
Yeah,
what I sometimes I have to take a step back and be a good listener and keep, my energy down some and be right with them. And a lot of times I gain pearls from people that seem to be fixed a little bit.
yep,
And then it's not a constant. Sometimes they get unfixed, or I may be get my mind back on that right by being a good listener with those individuals and realizing there might be a reason they're stuck, or maybe they're not stuck. Maybe I need to come back down a notch and kind of see where they're at and gain their
yep,
perspective, and then we move forward together. It's kind of like as you're climbing that mountain with that rock, right? It's wrapped around you. We're all trying to get up there. Sometimes we have to take a step back a notch or two and get our footing and then keep climbing, right? So that's kind of what I'm gaining from what you're saying. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm kind of sensing the listening and the understanding and the growth that can come out of every situation if you look for it, right?
100%.
What about hustle? I know, man, you've been playing football. Tell us a little bit about your football because I know you had to hustle. You had to take a lick and you had to get back up, right?
Yeah, well, I think famous rapper said it best, hustle means hard work. But yeah, I think that's where it all starts, right? My dad used to tell me back in the day, folks would say, someone works hard. Well, I think that's the expectation. We all have dishwashers. What's a dishwasher's job? Works hard every day. You
True.
start it, it works. So I think that the effort, the enthusiasm, the energy it takes to be successful, those are kind of ingredients that for guys like us are the norm. But for me, yeah, the hustle, it definitely started early on. It's something I try to empower my own sons to live by. But I think whatever you're doing, you have to approach it with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of effort, and kind of contagious energy, which I know is a way you live. But yeah, for me on the football side, man, hustle is really what created opportunities. I obviously wasn't blessed with, if you can't tell, a 6'4", 235-pound frame. So I had to figure out ways to use my mind,
Right.
to put myself in position and surround myself with great teammates to ultimately win. But yeah, I think that's where it all started is hustle
Well,
and
it's
then
funny
being
you say
blessed
that.
with,
It's funny you
yeah,
say that because, when I'm interviewing people, and I've interviewed a lot of people and hired a lot of people, and I've got a pretty good background of understanding about what it takes to win. And, having a lot of winning teams, I've been blessed. But one ingredient I always look for is what have they done? How have they competed?
yeah,
How consistently have they competed? When have they been challenged and overcome those challenges, right? So you can
100%.
take the sports field. and put it right into the business field, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's pharma, whether it's whatever, real estate,
Yeah.
it could be insurance, it could be anything, right? I mean, and it does take effort, takes energy, and it takes self-awareness, it takes commitment and hustle in the middle of
100%.
all that, right? Because a lot of times what separates the top 5%, from the middle is a little bit more, oomph.
Well, a little bit more grit. And you know what you can't spell grit without, Ty, is it.
Yeah.
And the it factor is what you've got. It's what a lot of successful people have. But one thing I wanted to touch on, and this is something actually that I get a kick out of, especially in the corporate arena. I think you can appreciate this as well as your listeners. There's a lot of individuals that really have never quote unquote stood in the pocket, been in the batter's box, been in front of 100+ thousand in your shoes, been on the opposite end of the net, down a couple serves and having to react and perform and really deal with stressful situations. So I think what I love to look for in candidates, even in individuals that I aspire to be like, is those individuals that have not only not only talk it, but they've walked it. And a
Right.
lot of times you'll find, at least I have in the corporate world, everyone likes to use cliche sayings. Everyone likes to pretend that they've been a leader of men or a leader of women in life outside of sports or competitive environments. And a lot of times, leopards don't choose their spots. A lot of times things are revealed about those individuals because they really haven't been in the trenches. And
Right.
so I think to your comment of going after folks that have had success with teams in competitive environments, I mean, those are traits, especially for your listeners that might have aspirations to get into the healthcare field, which you and I, participate in, really understanding how to be a collaborative partner, thinker, but at the end of the day, having a track record of success, that's the best predictor for future success, past performance. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that.
Getting on the right bus, getting on the right seat on the bus, and going in the right direction on the bus. A lot of times when you're recruiting or you're hiring people, you're looking to fill a seat. And if they get in the wrong seat and they can't work with the people in the other seats, we know what that looks like when we've had those experiences. And
That ends up with you as the bus driver getting kicked off the bus.
I can get kicked off the bus if the team's not moving well down So at the end of the day, we're looking, everyone pretty much looks for talent that can bring a lot of value and also uh, work with other people appropriately, right? And lift other people too. It's hard to
100%.
find that type of skill set, where people are willing to come in because you get individuals and I'm an alpha, I'm competitive. Sometimes that's my weakness, but I've learned over time, as I've been blessed to take on responsibility to lead others that, you have to take 2 or 3 steps back, look at the entire bus. Everybody's in there, everyone's wanting to go in the right direction and they're looking to you for leadership and you're looking to them for leadership because you love it when people step up and lead, in those seats on the bus and help the bus get down the road. And then you develop future leaders just through working with each other's experiences and challenges. And we don't always have the answer. The leader most of the time doesn't.
Sure.
It's going to be a consensus of everyone on the team when we put everyone together that we're going to be able to take that next step that might be the biggest challenge account. It might be a market that we're underperforming in, but it takes a lot of people. And I know you being an institutional director at one point in your career, with our company, you took on a lot of those top accounts and had to work with a lot of different people. So when you do that, where does teamwork come into all that in your mind?
Well, so I'll start by this. I was blessed to play, and I'll probably upset a lot of former Texas high school communities here, but I played at South Lake Carroll in high school, which arguably, even to this day, is still one of the top winningest programs and top school districts in the country. But we had a mantra, Ty: team me, big team, little me, and that's something I've continued to take in my professional career. Is you know and you commented on it best. everyone has to be pushing towards the same
Hmm.
direction. So, for me, that's just been a philosophy that I've grown with. I try to live with, and from a corporate perspective, you commented on the roles, the variety of roles I've had. It takes teaming. It takes a really a matrix driven approach, meaning you've got to rely on a lot of different individuals to ultimately achieve, whatever goal it is you're going after. But I think that's a very important trait, especially in the world that you and I live in, where payers can get involved. Contracts can get involved. There's a lot
A
of
lot of
different
variables. Yep.
variables on what you're trying to do.
And to
So
break
you as an
barriers, you're going to need multiple perspectives, right?
yeah, you've got to
Yeah.
just make sure you're relying on a lot of different thoughts and folks a lot smarter than yourself to ultimately land on decisions to win whatever you're going after.
We've touched on this a little bit, but when you look at purpose and comfort zone, how do you see those two areas?
Well, I think from a purpose and comfort zone standpoint, everyone's got to have a purpose. Everyone's got to have a why. I touched on that a little bit earlier. I think you've got to have something intrinsically that drives you. And that can be different for each individual. So you've got to figure out intrinsically what is it that's going to get you out of bed every day? What is it that's going to create the mindset, the drive, the ability to do something that you don't want to when you don't want to do it? And I think that's actually the perfect definition of what makes a great leader is inspiring and instilling that type of why to an individual.
Mhm.
You ask about what does it mean? Was the question around getting out of your comfort zone
Yeah, yeah,
or
just, you kind of answered that just now. It's the purpose, right?
yeah.
And that can take you out of that comfort zone if you're not meeting the next opportunity or the next step in your growth, right? That's what I'm hearing, and I think you nailed it. But what happens when you have tremendous purpose and you think you're out of the comfort zone and you fail? What what happens then?
Well, I think it goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning. You either find a way to rebound, through a growth mindset, or you become complacent. And, you see this all the time, even with athletes. Some folks take minor setbacks and create major comebacks. Others take those same injuries and end up flailing in their career. I can tell you a personal example, Ty, and it's something that still sticks with me to this day as far as my intrinsic drive for success. I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but football is really what molded me. I grew up with it. It's what funded my education. And when I was at the very top of my game, I transferred to the University of Oklahoma, played under Coach Bob Stoops, had a great run of teammates and won the Big 12 championship through their performance. Didn't have much to do at all with what I brought to the table. But having said that, when I was at the top of my game athletically, transferred to OU, bet on myself, had a tremendous career at Texas State University. About 2 weeks before our first game, I broke my leg, fractured my fibula, second degree tear of my LCL. Ty, I had never been in sports and observed from the sideline
Mm,
until then. And through that process, and it took me a while, to really accept the fact that, you know what, my playing days are probably over. I'm at the pinnacle of athletic programs in OU. Everyone in the wide receiver room was a first or second round draft pick. The
wow.
likelihood of me coming back from this injury and performing at a high level in a 12-week period is slim to none. And I wrote my thesis on this during my master's. I looked at how does basically your self-esteem affect performance.
Mm,
And during that time, obviously, I'm in the lowest of lows, right? Moving to a
mhm.
new city, new locker room, don't know anyone, competing for a job, break my leg, not a great, not a great feeling. But what that experience allowed me to do was get to know a lot of different people, on the team, get to see football from a different lens on the
Mhm.
sideline. I actually had aspirations during that time of becoming the next great thing as a college coach, etc., which who knows that day still might come. But all that being said, that adversity that I went with or
Mhm.
went through in the short term was devastating because athletically, that was what my why was.
Oh
But
yeah.
then professionally, I thought to myself during that time, okay, the NFL is probably not going to happen. What industry can I go into that A is competitive, B, I can impact people, but C, also, because you have to have carrots, you have to have a why. For me,
Mhm.
the why was I want to make sure I can provide financially for my family to be in a position where, you know, I can provide and put them into positions that I was never able to, do so growing up.
Right.
And that's where I kind of started thinking about moving into the healthcare sector and then just making sure that every move I made was strategic and
Mhm.
ultimately positioning myself for, that next opportunity. But it was really through that adversity of dark times
Well,
that
what's really cool
shaped
about
me.
that is you had to change your why kind of changed a little bit. I mean, it was still a why, but you had it the football world and that was your North Star and they got broke. I mean, but you got the most out of it, actually grew from that.
Sure.
You could as a young kid, you may think of that as failure, but it's really growth, right? And that's the next one here, grow. When you hear the word grow, you just gave us one facet of growing, right? Let's fast forward to where you are today. And you have no limits. And how do you motivate yourself today versus when you were on the sideline as a football player, broke your leg in a town that you're not, familiar with? People, you've got to meet all new people. This makes those challenges for you today, what you've already overcome in your past, it sets you up for more success. But how do you challenge your status quo, Chase, today to grow?
Well, I think you touched on it early on, and I think for us in this field, it's a quarter by quarter field from the standpoint of, obviously anyone in this industry is going to be motivated to impact patients. So I think for me, the way I can impact patients is influencing providers and influencing teams around me that ultimately get our test for per se. Right now I'm at Caris Life Sciences, so we have the ability to help clinicians diagnose life-threatening diseases in cancer care.
Mhm.
So I think for myself, the day-to-day challenge is removing barriers for teams to get in front of the right people. It's empowering individuals to, help their talk track, their confidence level in front of providers. It's working with an array of internal customers to really bring solutions to our external partners. But yeah, my day-to-day challenge is no different than anyone else's. I think we're all in the space I'm in. I look at the challenge of really changing behavior and thought patterns of providers and institutions and payers, et cetera, to use your particular, solution or widget, whatever you're representing.
No, that's awesome, man. That's passion right there. Hey, we're getting near the end here, so I want to ask you on winning the day. I know that's your I don't know how I want to phrase that, but I know it's when I think of winning the day, I think of you. Or when I see win the day, I think of you branded that so much on LinkedIn. And I've kind of tried, I went win the day times 365. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, uh, what what how, you mentioned that early. That was your motto or before way back, and you've hung
Yeah.
on to that. What is it about that has served you well?
Folks have asked me that, and by no means did I coin the term or it's really three words, right?
Mhm.
But I think what I tried to do, Ty, and it goes back to branding, and it actually started during my time at AstraZeneca, when I really started looking at how can I create a way so that an individual in a different country, if you remember at the time we had the workplace where it was
Mhm.
like an intranet of Facebook
Yep.
where you could make posts and different things. And I wanted to figure out a way where if someone didn't know who Chase Wasson was, they would associate a brand to me. And that's when I started thinking about, well, what really drives me? Competitive greatness. Well, with competitive greatness typically comes success. With success, there's a process. I'm very big on process pace. And I
Mhm.
just thought that the phrase win the day really encompassed a lot of my intrinsic beliefs so that my goal was extrinsically as folks don't know who I am, they're going to associate myself with the win the day mantra. And it's really, it's caught on. It's not for everyone.
Right.
Kind of to your point earlier, some folks, might take it as, hey, look at me, look what I'm trying to do. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to, create a positive influence and light and really just shed, some excitement, enthusiasm, positive mindset, etc on whatever you're doing. You can win the day and, getting up, working out. You can win the
Mhm.
day impacting your kids, petting your dog, you name it. But I think life is about choices. And the
Mhm.
biggest thing I try to live by is choose to win the day.
No, I love that, man. That's a great insight. And I love the brand. I love the mindset because, winning today, it doesn't mean you got to hit a grand slam. It might mean that you got up and you had a good breakfast, you went to the gym, you hugged your wife and kids, and you got some workout in. That's a pretty good day. And then
Yeah.
by that, if you, get to work and you engage with a customer and you help one of your representatives and, um, we were better at the end of the day. It was a great day, and you add those up times 365. Amazing things happen over a period of,
Yeah.
of a year, right? And you just keep growing and keep building and keep climbing. So, hey, man, it's been an awesome to have you on. Um, you know, when I frame everything that we've been talking about, I'm thinking about culture. We're going to end it on culture. What what, and you've been a part of a lot of different cultures because you've been with, when I say culture, that can mean the team you're on. It could be the company you're with. It could mean, um, it could be even bigger than that, right? But
Sure.
if you were giving someone out there advice that's coaching a team or coaching a group of athletes or coaching a business, pharmaceutical team or someone who's
Mhm.
coaching any team in business, when it comes to developing a winning culture, what are two or three things you think would be vital in order to be able to pull that off?
Well, I think it's a great question. I think culture is key to success in whatever industry, athletics, corporate performance, etc. But it starts with, and I commented on this earlier, it starts with the tip of the spear. And what I mean by that is it really starts with the leader at the top has to be able to walk it like they talk it. And I think that's very key for any organization or team is the individual at the top that's really casting the vision, setting the tone, day to day has to bring that level of energy, enthusiasm, excitement, value, and really push that down to, the individuals that work for that particular organization, whatever they're representing. But it starts with a mindset, it starts with a vision. And, without a vision, there can be no real day-to-day process for success.
Mhm.
So I think when you are establishing culture, you've got to put in processes that do set a very clear expectation of what competitive excellence looks like. And
Yep. And
yeah, go
keeping the
ahead.
values alive, right? The
100%.
values that you come up with for the company and know
Yeah,
and let the company, the employees create those values. And then they are living the values that they came up with to meet the mission to drive the culture, right? So
that's
I,
right.
I love what you're saying. I think it all starts, when you enter the room, how you show up, how prepared you are. And, I know as a leader, if I don't show up prepared, I'm not bringing a very good example of what their
Sure.
expectation would be, right? And then we got to know where we want to end up. What is our goal? And then where are our gaps? You know, so, and it's not just me knowing the gap. It's more important
Yeah.
that the individual knows what their gaps are. And also, if they're exceeding those gaps and they've closed them and they're on the other side of it, that's a beautiful thing too. So,
No, it absolutely is. I mean, you're a Kentucky guy, so you can appreciate this. There's a lot of horses that want to run in the Derby, right? But
Yeah, very few make it. Yeah.
the horse that usually wins is always chasing that carrot. And I think that's also very important for your audience or even current performers. You've got to have the carrot to keep running after. And as a leader, you have to understand what type of carrot does my horse want to chase.
Exactly.
But I also am a big believer too that a lot of times with those Derby horses, Ty,
Yeah.
you know, you're born, I think personally, with some intrinsic traits that you can't teach. And when you can hone in on those traits that make you great, that's when the separation really starts to occur. And that's
You know,
when you
you
can
bring a good
develop.
point up.
Yeah.
Strength finders. I remember
Yeah.
doing, sometimes it's good to go back and revisit that because it gives you the five strengths that drive you.
Yeah.
Well, connecting is one of mine, is connections, and, and what reason I'm bringing that up, it's kind of like building the culture and knowing where all your team's strengths are, and then coach to the strengths.
Yeah.
A lot of people coach to the weaknesses. And I think it's important there's an awareness of those areas of opportunity. But if you're not praising the strengths and working the strengths into the team, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. And it's great that, Chase, you've been with us today because you brought a tremendous amount of strength into this conversation. Great insights, leadership, nothing that I didn't expect. I knew you were going to blow it out. I appreciate it. And hey, man, I'm glad we got the opportunity to spend the time together.
No, Tom, man, I can't thank you enough. Appreciate yourself, your audience, really everything you bring to the table each and every day because it's really been a privilege to get to know you, but also, the journey that you're on and just the voice that you have, I think influences a lot more people than you realize. The only thing I'm going to need as a parting gift is a, Kentucky Wildcat jersey here in some form or
Hey,
fashion.
we
So
got a
I'll
big
rock the
game
blue.
tomorrow night. We got Duke, man, in basketball. That's going to be a
There you
big.
go.
And then I wish I could do some bragging on our football team, but they fought hard at Tennessee. I got to give it to them. Third string quarterback, teams beat up. We've lost half the starting lineup, and they only managed to lose by 10 to top eight Tennessee on the road. So I give it to the football team. I
Well,
mean,
you know what they say about excuses, Ty. Everyone's got one.
hey, you got that right. And everybody's got people hurt right now. Oklahoma's
That's
five and
right.
five. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man,
I
don't
didn't
bring
bring
that
that
up.
up, but
Yeah,
it happens, brother.
it's a bad time for the Sooners. Even my Bobcats from my undergrad, we had a big win this weekend, but that's why their growth mindset, I guess, comes into play. There's you live to see another down.
Well, man, I'm going to be following you out there and learning from you and growing with you. And thanks for being on, my friend.
You bet, Ty. Thanks a lot. And for the audience, like I said, choose to win the day. Y'all have a great one.
Hey, brother, I think we're done there. Assign and leave. Okay. Let me hit this one here.